Greetings, my little chickadees. Joel Clark here, publisher of Lone Wolf Fists, and I wanted to show you what I was working on today. I'm kind of knuckle deep in this guy. This is a hex map. I'm actually putting this together for a more or less regular Discord game I'm planning to run on the Fistiverse, our proprietary Discord. It's going to be open table, so I want a lot of people to be able to play. And my thinking is that I will probably run it somewhere in the neighborhood of once every 2 weeks, somewhere there. Maybe a little more frequently if I can get away with it. But I'm putting a lot into it. Like, you'll note there's a lot of hexes here and a lot of variety. Also, this was all made in Affinity. I didn't do this with a hexographer or anything, and I'm really happy with the software. So the reason it looks so shiny and nice isn't just so that everybody can check it out. I kind of feel like nobody who's actually playing really needs to look at the hex map. I might actually commission a legitimate map that just kind of mirrors this very vaguely, that everybody can enjoy. More of an in-character thing. But this hex map is for GM use. But the reason it looks nice is because I'm not the only one who's going to use it. This is doubling as a supplement, of course, for Lone Wolf Fist, because the great thing about running games is that not only did I make the game that I really wanted to play, and not only did I make it so that I could easily run it in the style that I run games, but the wonderful thing is that whenever I make prep, it doubles as content for everybody. So right now, backers already have access to this guy. They can actually see the whole thing, they get the file. And they're also going to be getting access to the key that goes along with it that describes all the stuff that's in all these hexes. So some of this is proof of concept. I wanted to see how a hexcrawl would work with really high power of Lone Wolf Fist. Some of this is just making some content so people have stuff for their games. So even if it's a giant headache for me to make it, it'll just be sitting there ready for you, easy to use. So that's kind of what this is all about. This is what I've been working on. What's going on with Acid&Steel, I hear you asking? I'm still working on it. I've decided to set it down for a minute because it's a pretty big project. I know what the scope looks like, which is really nice, but it's a pretty big scope. And I'm in the middle of buying a house. You might notice that behind me I am in temporary quarters while I'm working on looking for an actual place to buy. And it has been surprisingly draining on my mental resources. So I just haven't been in a super great creative state for Acid&Steel, and I don't want to just trudge through it. I put down all the techniques for Yama. I'm on like those last couple of techniques, and I'm sort of unhappy with it. Like, maybe I'll feel better once I go back to it with fresh eyes, but I think I might actually scrap what I've done and start it over again. And that's sort of a depressing place to be when it comes to a big chunk, like 1/7 of the hell half of the book. I don't know exactly how much is going to be in the other half, the robot half of the book, but for the demon half, 1/7 of the techniques. So one of the biggest parts of it, having to scrap that and start over is a depressing prospect. Again, I'd rather have it happen now, well ahead of the Kickstarter, so that I can make it good and I'm satisfied with it by the time it gets here. And again, maybe I'm overreacting, but I felt like when I was right at the cusp of finishing this, I was looking over everything and I was like, I don't feel like I did what I wanted to do with this. I don't even know how much this is a kung fu and how much it is like a whole different kind of game. So maybe that's what that really felt like what he needed while I was writing it. But like looking at the whole thing, looking at it as from a top-down perspective and saying, okay, where does this appeal to players? What is this going to do in the game? I'm not really sure. It's a weird one. So I'll probably just have him sit in the background and work on the remaining 5. I've already got, I was top of the world whenever I had the first Asher written down, Ravana. I love his stuff so much that I release it. I'm like, here, everybody check this out. It's so cool. He's almost perfect. Yama, though, Yama was a little experimental for me. He sort of wound up being like a thing like my take on abyssals, and I don't like abyssals. I really don't. I think they're lame. Just like goth-flavored exalted, blah. So I wanted to do something that was a little more interesting. So I gave him this like legalistic bent to all of his stuff, which is cool, and he does neat stuff. But like, it's really experimental. Even on the, this is a supplement in which you can turn into an entire city. Like, not that you can make one, you are one. And even considering that, it felt experimental. So like, this is past the boundary of I don't even know how to. I feel like I can't even test this. Like, maybe it'll feel better once I'm testing it. Maybe just making some characters, some NPCs, and having them do stuff will clarify things. That being said, I'm about to run a big open playtest. And one of the other things I'm doing with this hex, and this big open playtest that I'm doing, this hex map here, is I am going to be playtesting stuff that's going to wind up in Acid and Steel. So you're going to get access, if you just want to play in that, you're going to get access to both being able to put your character together with these rules, at least the lower level powers, and additionally you're going to be seeing stuff that's going to wind up being in Acid and Steel. Somewhere in this hex map, I am going to put a way to get to Hell and a way to get to Babel Kiminar, which is the big robot city where all the cool robot people are. And if you get there, all the stuff I've prepped for those is going to be available. So in addition to this hex map, there's going to be these two other entire universes that will hopefully run on similar principles to this, that you can explore and do cool stuff with. This is the equivalent of doing a hex crawl in Exalted and having a portal to both Malpheus and to Autothonia. So I just wanted you guys to know that there was going to be lots of treats. Anyway, this is what I've been working on lately. And I'm doing it for a lot of reasons. Usually I have a million different irons in the fire. And the benefit of having a million irons in the fire is that you're never short of good ideas. So you'll note there's a lot of hexes, and there's over 200 hexes here. Not all of them have content in them. Some of them have the equivalent of a mega dungeon. All these gray areas are going to be cities, which are going to be... my thinking is that cities will be explored, any population center, which city is a way of talking about it, but any population center is going to be explored similarly to one explores a dungeon. Also, there's an underground one here. It's not super clear on the hex map, but it's in the key. There's an underground city here too, which is based on 7 devils from Weapons of the Gods, so you can enjoy that. Anyway, the point is, one of the points I'm trying to make here is these should all be something like a dungeon crawl. You go from place to place, you see stuff, you fight dudes, etc. You can also conquer them, you can also just war with them. So these are going to be very active areas with lots of stuff happening. And these other areas are, again, a little more like hexes, like traditional hexes in D&D, where they're more or less wilderness with a theme, and there's monsters in them. And then if you choose to do the crawl, which is to say you're going through this systematically, exploring and trying to find something that is, useful to you, there's going to be additional stuff here. So a lot of these have pre-prepared stuff, places or things or people or all three that you can find, interact with. So there's a reason to go exploring, even though it's very dangerous. But in addition to that, a lot of these are going to be empty, which is to say I'm not going to pre-prepare any content beyond just there is terrain that generally looks like this. So if you find yourself in one of those hexes, one of the things I'm doing with this that I'm really excited to do is I've got a bunch of charts that I'm going to roll on that is going to populate these areas so that they're much more full than they appear. So like 6105 here, for example, I might not have anything particularly for that one. I'm just like, okay, it's just some desert. The fact that you go from ruined city into desert, like that alone, and there's also some river there, so there's clearly something. So that alone gives it a lot of character and a lot of reason to go there. There's some tactical consideration for the river. There's the change of terrain, which signifies to you that you're making progress, so that's useful. And you also note that it's within view, like it's because these are 7-mile hexes. It's easily within view of this city. You can also see jungle, and in the distance you can see mountains. So there's a lot going on in this hex before I put anything in particular in there, so it can be empty. So I'm really excited to take my desert hexes and roll on them and see what is generated in that. Because they have things like different kinds of fields you might encounter, different kinds of groups of NPCs you might encounter, different treasures that might be hidden there, that kind of thing, and different like weird features that you might come across, things that would just be in the toxic deserts that are in this valley, which I've yet to name, by the way. I need to think of a good name for it, but I've named the cities, but I haven't named the actual whole valley itself. So yeah, I'm excited to put that stuff in there. The idea being that even if the hex entry is empty when you start, if you make these charts and you roll on them, you can generate stuff that is there. You know, that you write down and put in your notes as the GM. You could even pre-generate them if you wanted to. I prefer doing that in play because I don't really want to clutter up my notes. They'll get full. Like, let's be honest with ourselves. Between all the stuff that the NPCs are doing, all the stuff that the player characters wind up doing, all the stuff that I do want to put in there and I'm just bristling with ideas, these are going to be full anyway. So I don't need to overclutter myself with too much. But my hope with that, and I've got a lot of confidence in this, my hope with this, though, is that you, as a GM, can have what winds up being a relatively small workload, and I can outline how that workload, how I bring that workload into this. And in this supplement, which I'm writing down not only everything that's here, but how I got to here. In this supplement, this is going to be not only extremely useful for new GMs, just be like, here, put your players here and go crazy. You know, so they immediately can just start running it. It's like a cookbook. You just flip to the relevant page and the stuff is there. But also, in addition to that, I want to put in the guidelines for here is how I made this and how you can replicate it at your table. So it is training wheels for brand new GMs. It's a little derogatory calling it training wheels, but it's a training manual for brand new GMs. There you go. This is martial arts. It's a training manual. And this is the very fundamentals of, okay, I have an idea, and I need to bridge the gulf between I have an idea, and this thing is in the game. And I'm going to give you a set of techniques for doing that. Now, you'll note, of course, this is a hex map, so it's very player-directed. Hex maps are reactive places for the most part. Your players want to go to a place, they go to a place, stuff is happening there, they choose where they jump on and interact with it, right? That's kind of the guiding philosophy of hex maps. But there's another different kind of thing that GMs want to do, right? They have ideas, like dramatic ideas. I want this bad guy to do this cool thing and for the players to have to deal with that. You know, like, we naturally, the reason that we make a lot of the content that we make as GMs is we see a movie, we read a book, we watch an anime in my case, or read a manga, and we're like, oh, I want that thing to happen in my game. Well, I would really like for the hexcrawl experience to be complete enough, and the methods for translating your ideas into game content to be complete enough that I can find a way that isn't railroady for GMs to be able to make that happen for their players. You know, you have a cool dramatic idea, there's dramatic tension, dramatic stakes, there's a deep and rich emotional payoff, you know, lots of cool stuff. I really want to make it clear to GMs that that's not like bad, wrong fun. You should be able to think emotionally and creatively and to still make that content for your games. So I haven't 100% perfected that technique yet, but look forward to it. Anyway, I just wanted to come on here and talk about my little hex map for a while. I'm really pleased with it. I really, really like the way it looks. You can expect more updates for this for GMs on the Patreon. As I make stuff, is going to be available to you. So patrons are not going to have to worry about buying this product separately. When it's done, you're all just going to get it, and you're going to see it as it gets designed and put together. Everyone who's in the Fistiverse has a chance to play my open table. We'll have to do some scheduling. I will try to give you guys a week or so's worth of heads up and say, okay, this day between these hours at this time zone, I'm going to be running. Who's up? You know, who wants to do it? And I can run about 3 or 4 players at a time without any real difficulty. So if you have a mic, that's really all you need. It's be a Discord, have a mic, you know, and just be available as much as you can. It's not going to be like 1-to-1 time, but it's going to be something like everyone's going to be kind of on the same time scale. So if you want to jump between different characters, you can. If you want to continue to play the same character, you can. If you want your character to be doing stuff because you're not available for a given session, you can. We're going to run it where the timeline of the game is consistently moving forward at a reasonable click. So we're going to have to do some innovation there. Some of the ideas from one-to-one time are actually very useful there. Like having a sort of default action that your character is engaging in when they're not doing, actively being played. That'll be really useful. I think that in addition to making characters, I want to see people writing down like agendas for what they want their character to be trying to do, because we do have a domain scale play in my game. So the benefit of domain scale play is that even if you're a minor player, you can do stuff. And so, like, just having a list of stuff you want to try to do, okay, your character is trying to do that. I don't want it to be... I'd really rather not have characters die off-screen, off-camera when you're not running them. But I don't think it's going to be impossible for me to make like a list of, okay, if you want to try this, that's really dangerous. Your dude might get his ass kicked, and the next session you might start off in a prison. I'm fine with that. If you know what the risks are and you're still like, yeah, go for it, and your character gets imprisoned or killed off camera, okay, you knew what you were getting into. But yeah, so you can tell I'm bristling with ideas and excitement about this. So even though I've gone on like a mini hiatus with Acid&Steel, I don't want to be like, oh, I'm putting it on hold and doing this. I'm doing this because I'm in the middle of buying a house and I don't have the mental resources to dive back into Acid&Steel. When I do, however, I've got a lot of ideas for Shambara, who has been an interesting one. I've got a really good mental visual energy for him, but bringing the gulf between the mythic reality of Shambara, like the actual myths of the being, and my idea of him, and also doing my personal tribute to Cecily in the Endless Desert, which is what I'm kind of like aiming him towards power-wise and position-wise, making all of those things have like that Venn diagram in the middle. It's been interesting, and it's been revelatory, and he's gotten kind of spidery, so I think he's going to be our next guy. It's either going to be him or Shootin' Doji, but honestly, I'm really excited to get back into writing the Ashura, because some of them are so rich. Yamato no Orochi is another one where I'm really excited to... is that his name? Damn, I think it's Yamato no Orochi. The big snake guy. He's become more Vice-based, and he's a little Slaneshi, which I hadn't been anticipating, but I'm on board for it. Those three right away, Shootin' Doji and his, like, brutal cannibalist-based stuff, all of those three guys, I am salivating to write. Honestly, Chang-Chi too. I'm interested to see his chaos stuff get, and all of his social stuff wind up, because he's got a lot of like cool mutation stuff, and he's kind of my tribute to Kimberry. Basically every one of the Ashura I'm like thrilled to write for, and Vitra I can probably wait on a little bit. I like him landscape-wise. I like his dragonishness. I like his iceness. And I like some of the demons I've made for him. I like the weird arm-having centipede that hoards artifacts. There's something just fun about everything that has... That's got a good feel to it. I like the vibe of that guy. At this point I'm just gushing about future projects. But yeah, this is what's happening in the near future. You can buy this here soon when I'm done making it. It's going to be both this hexcrawl, which is pre-generated content for GMs. You can just plop it down in your game, use it very easily. It should be a little more user-friendly even than Blood from God's Eye, which is pretty user-friendly. But I'm learning good lessons from having actually put this stuff down and playtested it myself and getting feedback from people. It's enormously helpful. Anytime you guys leave me feedback, I listen to it, and it does improve future games a lot. So I'm really, really grateful for all of you guys for telling me what you think about it, good or bad. All of it gets used. I'm using the whole buffalo. Every single time I hear feedback, I'm like, okay, got it. Even little things, like there's been a lot of critique about the empty space in the core book. Okay, heard. Absolutely heard. I'm working on it. I changed the way I formatted in the latest version of doing both Acid and Steel and doing this, and you probably notice a lot less empty space whenever you're looking at the stuff. Again, all heard. Keep it coming. But okay, you can buy this whenever you get it done. Pre-made hexcrawl and a lot of principles and a lot of discussion about how to do this for your games, both in terms of like making hex crawls and like city crawls, they're kind of like dungeon crawls here. And additionally, I'm hoping to have some discussion about, okay, you have a dramatic idea. How do you allow that to exist in your game? How do you turn that into content that has a cool impact in the game, the same emotional reward you're looking to give the players, the same one that you want as a GM, while still respecting the player's agency? Like, how do you do both? Like, so you want to avoid the railroad, right? You want players to have real and honest agency. So that's an interesting thought, and I suspect that the real important thing there is probably player buy-in, like understanding that once their characters have stakes, they're gonna naturally go and not go on like the railroad, but they're gonna go and try to pursue this, and there's gonna be like a sequence of things, a sequence of consequences. Maybe having more than one different variety of consequences. I don't know. I'm intrigued by not the concept of the story path, but the concept of a dramatic arc that is done within a hexcrawl style. I think it's possible. I don't think they're mutually exclusive and purely incompatible. It's definitely challenging. Sorry for all the noise, by the way. It's one of the negatives of being here. Benefit is it's kind of a nice place. Negative is that it's right next to a highway, so there's a lot of noise. Anyway, I'm losing the thread here. Let's put that down. How long have I been recording? Oh God. Okay, this is 21 minutes. We're gonna call that good, folks. It's been really good talking to you. I'm going to let you guys get back to your day. I'm also going to do something with this. I don't know what I'm going to do with it exactly tonight, but I'll post it up on the Discord, and I'll post something on Patreon for you guys to enjoy as well. Again, thank you to all my Patreon supporters. You guys, I really have not been great about giving you guys feedback. Thank you very, very much. I need to get more organized with naming everybody, and at the end of videos being like, here are these wonderful people. I'm not much of a video editor. I usually just make these and throw them on YouTube because I'm lazy and I'm not very knowledgeable about video editing, as you can probably tell immediately. But you have hopefully noticed that my sound quality is improved, my video quality is improved, and that, you know, I'm actually using OBS and things like that. I've got a new setup specifically to work on that, so another thing I'm doing in the future, hopefully, is learning a little bit about video editing and getting organized enough that I can actually make edited videos for y'all. I'd like to do some general topic stuff that isn't just for patrons, it's just kind of for everybody, because, like, I've got a lot to say. I've got a lot of opinions about elf games, so I want to talk about them. And I feel like I've got a good voice for that. You know, I've got a lot of ways to like articulately say these things. So, yeah, I never wrote in a script before, but we'll give it a try. Anyway, that's enough from me for now. Thanks for listening to my ramblings. I hope I've given you a lot to look forward to in the near future, and I hope to see you guys in the Fistiverse as well. So stay active, and here in the not too distant future, I hope to roll some dice with you. Until then, hasta luego, everyone. That's my new call out. I'm just going to say that at the end of every video, like a YouTuber would do. So get used to that.